Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining today's podcast. I'm very glad to have you on the second episode of the PanzerCast. So Alex was one of our guests last week, and Onix, the famous Onix from GR, from that reaction video that we've seen last June, I think it was June.
Yeah.
Is with us today as well. So I'm glad to have you with us. And so today we are going to mainly discuss three aspects. So how you guys were introduced to the series, what you like about it, the VR game that is currently in production by Wildman in Japan, and lastly, the art direction of the series overall. And I think Alex has a lot to say about that. So, and I'm sure Onix as well. So enough of me speaking now. It's going to be your turn. So who wants to start?
I can start if you want, and then pass it over to Onix. Since I'm going to be talking about the art later on, we might as well just change it up like that, if that's
Sounds
okay.
Good. Sounds good to me.
So yeah, I played these games a bit retroactively in a way. So because I completely missed the Sega Saturn period. Actually, I had a PlayStation during that time. And so I never got to experience the Panzer Dragoon games, though I was aware of them. Because when I go into the game stores, there'd be that game there with the dragons and the strange art, and I'd say, "Oh gosh, I wish I had a Saturn now," you know. But it was one game, and I didn't actually get to experience it for myself until Panzer Dragoon Auto came out in 2002 here in the UK, and I remember so vividly the period leading up to the release of that game. And we only had two tiny little images that Sega had released as promotional images, right? And these were in the magazines back then. It wasn't like today where you just showered with marketing things.
Right.
And, you know, it's leading up to a game. There's so much hype, and there's too much. I think it kind of dispels a lot of the mystery out of it.
Right.
And back then, there was so much mystery about things. I mean, it's two little crappy images in the corner of Edge magazine, and it was just. I just dreamed into those pictures so much. And then finally, when I got the chance to experience the game and got an Xbox for myself, it was just more than I ever could have imagined. I think I said in the last podcast that we did, I'm a big fan of the Alien universe and H.R. Giger's contribution to that world, which very, in a way, has something of a parallel semblance to Panzer, not aesthetically, of course, but in the sense that they're very organic. There's quite a melancholic, very heavy atmosphere around both of those worlds. And I really love stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Anything that's a bit avant-garde, a bit unusual, I really gravitate towards. And another thing that really just struck me about Auto was Kobayashi's soundtrack. Mm-hmm. I think that, you know, you can't have Panzer Dragoon comes as a complete package. You know, it's aesthetics, it's a game, of course. There's a world there and a narrative, but there's also this wonderful music, and the whole thing just synchronizes together like an organism, really. And you can't imagine just one of those elements being attuned differently, because then it wouldn't be Panzer Dragoon. Right. And so after Auto, I then went back and I think I played Zwei after, and then the original game. And then I finally got onto playing Saga sometime later. So I had all of those ones on the Saturn. And I love Zwei. That's probably my second favorite, actually, after Auto. Though Yeah, I love them all. They have such an idiosyncratic quality to them, and they're very ambient games as well. You know, there's a very pronounced feeling about playing Panzer Dragoon games that's very hard to put rationally. Though everybody knows it when they've experienced it. You know, it's something that's there, and it makes for such a unique and artistically rich world. And yeah, so that's just my background with with my experiences with it, and I'll get on to talking about some of the artistic influences later.
Okay. Awesome. So as for me, when I was maybe 10 or 9, my father actually was the one that got me a Sega Saturn. Like I think most of us were at the time, right? Our parents got us the consoles. So he came home with it and said, "Hey, here's your new Sega." I was very happy, you know, and whatever. I played the games, etc. One of the demo discs that I ended up getting had a demo for the Panzer Dragoon, the second chapter of the first game. Played it, and I was just in awe. You know, it blew my mind as a kid. But sadly enough, I never actually owned a copy of it. So what we ended up doing was back then we had Blockbuster, right? Which was a big chain that you could just rent games and movies and things like that. I rented Panzer Dragoon. I finished the first one and eventually played Spy, finished that as well. And then got, you know, whenever, 2002, like you said, Orta came out, and, you know, I actually bought that game with my allowance because I was in high school at the time. Played through that, and I missed out on Saga. I never got around to playing Saga, which is it's criminal. I've heard such good things. I tried to emulate it actually a few years ago, and I had a laptop. It was a crappy old little thing that could not emulate it for anything, so I gave up on that aspect. But like you said, Alex, as soon as I saw that cover, or rather the picture of the dragon on the demo disc, that's what captivated me. You know, as a kid, you like dinosaurs, you know, you like these like extra large animals of fantasy. Yeah. And that's what drew me in. And I wanted to ask you, in the UK, what was the cover like? Was it like the Japanese cover, or
for which game?
For the first Panzer Dragoon.
For the first Panzer Dragoon game, I don't know what your thoughts on the American cover are, but I'm personally, I don't think it looks very good, man.
Not at all. Not at all. A very bad CG model of the dragon. Like, yeah. It's not cool.
I mean, I understand the rationale behind it because they wanted to like push, this is 3D, you know, it's not cover art like the Japanese had. Right. So over here in the UK, it was a similarly kind of 3D or CG rendered dragon, but it was in a backdrop with the desert and the sky, and so it looked a bit better. It's a bit in between, but the Japanese had the best one.
I absolutely agree, and all of them too. Like you look at Zwei, you look at Saga, even Orta. Orta's art is just I like the American, you know, the Western release cover art, but the Japanese is just it's so well done. Yeah, but yeah, that's overall my you know. History with the series. I really have always loved it, and as you guys saw during the reaction last year, I just lost my mind when I heard those first like horns playing. It was like a dream come true, because even before we recorded that reaction, we were doing bets, you know, and like for the bet show that we had, we have a section where it's like, oh, throw out some crazy like dream that you know is never going to happen. And mine was, oh man, a full-on Panzer Dragoon sequel. Granted, I didn't get that, but I got a remake instead, which is just, it was mind-blowing at the time. So pretty cool.
Very nice, yeah. I think I never really explained how I was exposed myself to that series. So just quickly, I think I never originally played the first Panzer Dragoon on the Saturn. I never played it on the Saturn when I had it back in the days. I played, I think, there was a demo disc in Europe with a magazine. I don't know if you had that in the US, but I would play this demo over and over because I didn't have many games, you know, at the time.
Right.
I just had the Sega Saturn and a few demo discs, and I had then I think FIFA, Dragon Ball Z, and a few games, not many. And the Saturn was not very popular at the time. It was all about the PlayStation. So I was this kid I was stuck with the Sega Saturn, and most of my friends had the PlayStation, and I was like, come on, I'm the loser. I have the console that is. It is a bit sad, and to be fair, I remember this period very well. The Saturn had such a hard time. It was sad, but I think I'm not even sure I played Spy entirely. I think I only played this demo disc back in the days of it was this stage 3, the Taboo Forest.
Oh yes,
we played over and over. This music was incredible,
amazing.
Just like you said, it was an ambience game. It was incredible. And then I had this friend who had so many Saturn games. I think he even had Nintendo 64 later, but he was one of the rare friends that I had who had so many Saturn games, and he was the one who lended me a copy of Panzer Dragoon Saga. And that's how I went from my love for the series went from this to Sky.
Right.
Because I had not experienced many RPG at the time. I think maybe just the first mana game on the Game Boy. I don't know if you remember Seiken Densetsu, the first one on the Game Boy. It was one
Legend of Mana, I believe it was.
Yes, in the US. Yes.
Yeah.
And I had not much experience with RPG, but this one I feel is different. It's more like an adventure game than a true RPG, because of how the game flows, etc. It's really, I'm not going to praise the game again and again. It's really, you need to experience it at some point if you get a chance, because the voice acting, even if it's Japanese, I think it's really convincing. I never understand why people nowadays in 2020 say, okay, Japanese voice is better. I think it's a little bit posh to say that, because most times the Japanese voice are a little bit childish and blah, 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 blah. But Panzer Dragoon Saga was really, they had really mature voices. I think they recruited really good actors at the time. And it showed in the game. It shows, and the music was incredible. They have put so much passion in it. But yeah, that was my rant about Panzer Dragoon Saga. And then I think that's the reason why I love the series so much. I think later I played that Spy, and you know what? I must admit, I'm not even sure I beat Panzer Dragoon Spy.
Yeah, that's okay.
Really?
I've played it like once. That one time that I rented it and played it, that was the only time I've played it. I've not played it since. And we're talking, we're going on almost 20 plus years. So my memories are fuzzy. I did play a little bit for the video that I did on the Panzer Dragoon remake, but before then, again, it's been 20 plus years. So don't feel too bad. It's not like it's easily accessible on Steam or anything, And
even the first game, I think I had never beaten the first game before the remake. So I played the remake, and then after that, I replayed Ota, and then I tried to beat the original game in Ota. But
yeah, right.
Have you seen the final boss of Spy, Oliver?
Well, I've watched so many playthroughs that yes.
The music on that stage, man, is one of the best things about that game.
Yeah.
It's so powerful, powerful.
Indeed, it was reused in Saga, because the boss.
Yes.
I don't want to spoil people, but at this point, I think people know that the boss returns in Saga.
Yeah,
right.
But it was incredible, and it's incredible in Spy. You have, I think, 4 composers. It's crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that I didn't know.
Just 1 composer in the first game, 4 in Spy, and then in Saga you had Kaobayashi did like 95% of the work, I think, and there is Mariko Nanba. I finally got my answer about her. She has apparently retired from the industry, so we won't see her return on the game.
Got it. Did Kobayashi do the entire soundtrack for Orta as well? She did, right?
Orta, there is a second composer from Skies of Arcadia as well.
Okay.
But he did most of the work, yes.
Yeah, okay.
But still, those songs that were composed by this second composer are really, really nice as well. You can, I don't know if you can hear the difference, but I really like the themes that this person has created. They are really powerful as well.
Yeah, like you said, I think all of the games, there haven't just been a single composer. There's always been another person who's kind of come in and contributed to a track or a couple of tracks. But I think a lot of the fan base has come to associate Kobayashi-san with the sonic side of things, because she really brought that fusion in the sound between this very traditional percussion, tribal rhythmic component, and then this other very electronic and ambient part, and the orchestral features as well. And it's a really great synthesis. I think that just musically, if it was purely orchestral, like the first game kind of wanted to err towards that. I think that the first Panzer Dragoon game, actually, wasn't that one of the first video games where they actually used an orchestrated soundtrack?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Flight was one of the reasons why I was also, taken aback. At the time, I didn't know it was fully orchestrated, but I knew that Flight had presence. Yeah. And as the times went on, I started kind of, maturing and learning more about music composition in video games. When I looked at that, I was really impressed, because you're absolutely right. It was 1995. It was the dawn of the CD. Yeah. It was, and here, knowing that Panzer Dragoon had that to start. Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely correct on that. It was one of the first, if not the first.
Yeah, and I think one of the constraints, the media, the disc, was that because of the game was short, they could fit some orchestral songs, and I think they had to move away from that with the sequels, because there was more content. I'm not sure, but I think the reason they had to move from that, and also maybe it was expensive to recruit, composers with orchestral sounds. It cost more money, of course, but it was a different sound in the first game, definitely. Yeah.
They never went back to orchestra, right? I mean, besides like the ending themes for Saga and Orta, because those, of course, had the orchestral arrangement behind the vocals. But besides that, nothing really orchestrated, right?
If you read some of the interviews we've had over the years, they Futatsugi and his colleagues explain that they have been, experimenting things over the years, over the different games. And I think, with the first game, they experienced something. And then with the second game, they try something different to finally find a sound that they, that was more in line with what they had in mind, I think, with Saga.
Like the image of the game.
Yeah. I know some people like the sound of the first game. I think it's incredible. It's orchestral. But to me, there is a sort of mismatch between the action. It's fast-paced and at the same time, it's orchestral. I think it's better to have an ending song that is orchestral or an intro song. And in between, because it's a shooting game, it's fast-paced, you have to move the camera quickly. I think the sound that they have inspired in Saga fits better the action. But it's just my opinion, to each own. I don't want to impose.
Yeah. Personally, for me, now we're talking about music. My favorite soundtrack of the series, and this is, knowing that I haven't played through Saga, so I don't know Saga soundtrack intimately, so I can't comment on that one. But on the 3 rail shooters that are Panzer Dragoon 1, Sve, and Orta, I love Orta's soundtrack. That, from the moment I've heard it, and ever since then, I have loved that soundtrack. I use it on a lot of YouTube videos sometimes, just as background music, because I love it so much.
Would you have any tracks particularly that stand
Eternal
out?
Glacies.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, it's so mystical. Like because if you remember the level, right? You crash on the snowy landscape, and your dragon is hurt, so you're just running right on the snow. And the level opens up with like the landscape shot, and you see Orta on the dragon just kind of riding on the snow. And those like first notes that are just so chilling, they're genuinely cold feeling. and slowly building up, and then you hear that percussion come in with like the drums and the enemies kind of come in with you know, if I would say like a song and a level and the design and everything come perfectly in conjunction to form a great product, I would point to that 1 minute of that introduction to that level. Everything about it to me is perfect. Like just like Oliver was saying earlier, it's the imagery, the vision of what Panzer Dragoon represents, perfectly in sync with the music. Like everyone had this idea of what they were doing, and they did it. You know.
Yeah, I really like the Fallen Ground as well.
Oh my God, yes.
Level 3, because it's so sad and melancholic, and you're flying through this gray desert, seeing the ground that's ripped up and all of this, the ancient ruins there from the older civilization, and it's such a weighty track, and there are periods in that, like you're saying. I mean, it synchronizes with the music so well, because after the first part, the area where you're looking out over this huge canyon, and there are those black squid things that when the air, but before you actually get to them, you just left to suspended in the air with this really dreamy ambient score, and I love that how there's this space to things. You know, it's not like they want to fill everything with action and excitement. There are these times in it where you just have to breathe and just let it in, you know.
And I think that's what sets Panzer Dragoon as an on-rail shooter apart from a lot of others. It is a beautiful series. I think I don't want to say it's subjectively, nothing is subjective really, but when it comes to the idea of at least to me, of what makes a game great, what makes a game art, right? I always have thought of, two major examples. I've always thought of the Shadow of the Colossus, and really anything that Fumito Ueda has done, because Eco, Last Guardian, they're all really beautiful. But Panzer Dragoon, with moments just like the one you mentioned, there is a beauty to silence, and those moments where it's very quiet, where you just, like you said, you know, you're not constantly being bombarded with feedback and you know, what is it really called? Style versus substance, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely agree with that. That's a really great level. Now I want to pose a quick question to you guys, since both of you have played Orta, and I think you Alex, you mentioned you have played Saga, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I've never played Saga, but I am very familiar with the ending theme. I love that track. So which one would you say you prefer? Because Anu Orta, I forget the last part, but Orta's ending theme is also amazingly composed. So which one of those two would you prefer?
Oliver?
You mean the game or the ending song?
The ending song, in particular, just the song.
For me, it can only be Saga.
Yeah, I had a feeling.
But I mean, Orta's ending song is incredible. Yes, I love it as well. But for me, it will always be Saga. I mean, it's even used. Futatsuki keeps using this music in every presentation he makes in the meeting. They use this song to present Orta, I think, initially.
I remember reading that when he was presenting the idea of Phantom Dust to Microsoft, he used the Panzer Dragoon Saga music behind that to, you know, give his presentation some boost. And Microsoft were, you really love Panzer Dragoon Saga then? And he's like, what do you mean? I love it. I made it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And just to conclude, why I love this ending song so much is because, you know, there is this, you know, this ending when you finish the game, you know what I mean? It's not really a very happy ending. I don't want to spoil you, but I mean, at this point, Onix, you won't be mad at me if I.
No, you can talk about it. I'm a little familiar with the ending because, you know, I've read a little bit of like the theories of Orta being like the daughter of such and such character, so I'm a little aware. You're fine. This
music really translates all those emotions into music, because you had this amazing journey, and then there is this ending. And then the music starts from, it starts slowly and then goes into something truly epic that really represents the journey you just experienced before. So and it gave me goosebumps. It was incredible. And the few games really do that, I think. And the few games that are able to do that to me are usually RPG, because you stick with the characters, you spend a long time with them, so you get more time to appreciate them. And when you lose them, when the game is over, you lose a little bit of yourself because you've spent so much time. Saga was a short game, but for me at the time it was I didn't feel like it was a short game.
Right.
But the closer to that feeling I got recently was with Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Oh, really?
I know some people don't like the game, but I finished the game. It took me, I think, a few hundred hours. And it's one of the rare games that gave me this, a similar kind of emotion as to when I finished Saga.
No, I get it. I have not played Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I've always been interested in the series, but I've never really delved deep into it. But I get it. That song of Saga, like, again, I've never played the game, so I don't have that emotional connection. The first time I actually heard the game, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, I believe it was part of Pandora's Box in Orta. Wasn't that an option? Like, I believe you could listen to music in Pandora's Box. And I believe that song was in there.
I think it's very likely because they used the song for trailers for Orta, so they must have. I know they have included many trailers from Saga, from Spy, even maybe.
Yeah.
So I think the music must be in there somewhere.
So maybe that's where I heard it. I'm not sure, but all I remember is that the first time I heard that song, I was blown away. And at the time, we didn't have YouTube. So I don't even remember how I downloaded the song, but I found it online somewhere. And I always kept it as an MP3. I'm pretty sure on my old computer, it's still there. But that song is incredible. The ending theme song, the Panzer Dragoon Saga, is incredible. Alex, I need to hear your opinion here. Which one's your favorite between those two?
Oh, well, it's very hard to say which one is better because both of them are very, very strong tracks. They both just really round off both of those experiences very well. I mean, personally, I'm a bit different to Oliver because I experienced Orta first. Mm-hmm. And like I said in my intro, there was all of this enigma and emotion bound up in that game leading up to it, and when I played it as well. So that final song really just completed that for me, and I find the character of Orta as well to be very endearing,
right?
Much more so than the protagonists in the other games, including Edge and Saga. Actually, there's this real sense of tragedy about her. And right. this sadness, because the almost like she's symbolizing the world in a human form in a way, because the whole world is in this. There's a lot of games that are post-apocalyptic now, and it's almost become a kind of trope,
It has been, yeah.
But it really is. Though Panzer's world, it's not just the dilapidation that communicates it. It's this just this sense of loss and this melancholic weight that's in a lot of the characters, and Orta very much represents that to me. And some of the concept art as well. I mean, just the look in her eyes. She looks almost like a broken person, mm-hmm. And it just complemented that whole world space really well for me. So personally, if I had to pick between the two, I'd go with the one with Orta. But
right.
Yeah, the one with the Saga, all of Saga's music is absolutely gorgeous as well.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if I had to pick, I think I would go with Orta too, just because of the fact that I've never played Saga.
Yeah,
but I will tell you this: I think if I were to take my own personal feelings out of it, Saga's song is really good. It's just such a good song. I cannot. I don't know. Hardly any video game themes, vocal themes in particular, exist, right? So for these to have vocal themes that are, they are in the Panzer Dragoon language, right? What was it? Panzerese? Is that what it's called?
Panzerese, yeah.
Yeah. So that also adds to the mystique of these songs. It's just great. We can all agree that they're both fantastic songs. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the fact that they went to that length, I think it was one person and the development team who his hobby was languages. He was like an amateur etymologist, does it? Where they study the history of words and everything. And yeah, that Panzerese, I think it's a mixture between Japanese, Greek, and Russian, if I believe. Oliver, do you know that?
I'm not 100% sure, but it's a mix of different language. Yes, as you said, I think there is normally some French, some Japanese, and
definitely Japanese. It definitely has a Japanese sound for sure.
Actually, my understanding is that this fake language was used in the beginning of the game, and the rest of the game is spoken in Japanese.
Right.
Because it was too complicated to make the actors
for the
entire game. So it's part of the game, it's part of the lore of the background, but the actual actors don't speak in this language the entire game. But it's incredible, and I think I don't know if you heard about that, but it's because they didn't have dev kits straight away that they had so much free time to develop this lore so much and this fake language. Initially, when they created their team to work on Panzer Dragoon, I think they didn't receive the dev kits immediately, so that's why they had, time to think.
Time to make a language.
The lore, etc. So in a way, we are lucky about that. But I just wish Panzer Dragoon was still alive in a different manner. But
well, there's still hope. There's still hope. But as you reported yourself, the remake has sold extremely well, and I'm giving the benefit of the doubt here, but I don't think Sega sees this as something negative. I feel that hopefully with Vi, when that remake comes out, if that sells just as well, if not better, I really think Sega will do something out of this. It might not be something big. They haven't forgotten the series entirely, but they haven't treated it well either. So
yeah, I don't know whether. I mean, the perfect thing for us would be to see a Sega-made Panzer Dragoon game, wouldn't it? Like an actual in-house one. Though I find the likelihood of that happening to be lower. Sega seemed quite open recently to license out some of their IPs to the studios. And of course, recently we've also had the Streets of Rage 4 come out, which has been really well received.
It is. I've played it myself. It's fantastic. It's a great game.
It's very enjoyable. Very enjoyable. And so, yeah, I think that being a Panzer Dragoon fan now is a very exciting time because it's almost like we've received so much in one go. At first, the Brave Wave re-release of the Saga soundtrack,
which was great,
which is beautiful. I've got the two versions here. One of them signed by Kobayashi.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which, nice little collector's pieces. And then, after that, the announcement of these remakes and then a VR game. And, everything's just happening at the same time. I mean, to think that this is also happening now in between a huge drought period. Between when did Auto come out? 2002?
2002, I believe that was, 2002. So we're talking 18 years.
Yeah, it's a long time without any activity. And there are many IPs out there who have gone through, similar drought periods and they just never come back.
Right.
And I think it's just testament to the fans and also the fans in the development community as well, like in Forever Entertainment, who have really kept the flame of this series alive in their hearts. Right. And if it wasn't for them, we would have no remake, we would have no reissues, we would have no hopeful prospects of something else in the future. And like you say, Onix, this has got to be sending a message to Sega. But like I said in the last podcast with Oliver, Zwei, everything really lands on Spy.
It really does.
Because the first game is great, and I think Forever Entertainment they've done a sterling job in bringing this to new audiences. They've done the best with what they had and the minimal resources and the funds, and they've been very honorable and communicative in their contact with the community as well. You couldn't really have asked for it to be in better hands, I think. And they've really got a lot on their plate now to put into Spy. I would be dissatisfied if we simply got another retranslation of Spy to the level of the remake. Don't get me wrong, the remake of the first game is good, but Spy needs a bit extra attention because it's a much more holistic expression aesthetically. It has some much more grander components to it with the ship, and I'd love to see the way that they handle the cutscenes as well. And I mean, even going back to the old Sega Saturn days, they really, Sega themselves, or Team Andromeda, wasn't it?
Right.
They really upped the game in between the first game and Spy.
Yeah.
And you notice that when you play those games, as Spy is a much more sophisticated, well-rounded, robust gameplay and aesthetic experience. And we've got to have that in the remake. So if Spy remake does well, if not better than this, then come on, Sega they've got to go rummaging through those dirty old drawers and find that source code of Saga or something. But,
see, the big fear with this, because like you said, the first remake it's a good title. It's not perfect. Yeah. And it was, it didn't do anything additional to the original core experience, right? It didn't add any extra mechanics. It was a genuine remake that is almost a 1-to-1 copy, right? Just looks better and it has different things to it. And like you said, with the second one, I don't think they should add many more mechanics or anything like that. They just have to focus on the details that made the sequel better, like you're saying. Because if that were to happen, this is what I see happening. Call it the prediction of Panzer Dragoon here.
Right.
I feel like the second one will sell better. And what Sega will probably do is hopefully find a source code or gather it up from wherever it is, release some, touched up HD remasters of the original games and say, hey, if you buy this and you guys show me that you really, 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 really want more Panzer Dragoon, we might make it. That's probably the best we'll get, because Saga, I know, it is like a holy grail of 32-bit RPGs.
Yes.
And for them to go in there and try to remake that, we would need something like the recent Final Fantasy VII remake to do it justice. It wouldn't be right to give such a game that has so much love the wrong treatment. We need something like the 7 remake, maybe not as expensive, right? Because Square Enix is Final Fantasy VII is a whole different ballpark, but Saga also deserves that much attention to detail and that much love put into that project if it were to ever happen.
I would be happy to have first just a simple port of Panzer Dragoon Saga on Switch, with the Sega Ages collection. I would be so happy with that. Just a first step. And I think a lot of people, when you see the game is selling for like $600 on the eBay, I mean,
ridiculous.
if they can buy it for $20 on the eShop, of course they are going to buy it. And I think, I know it's difficult for Sega to port Saturn games. It's a bit tricky, I think. But I would be happy if M2 was on the project, because they are really talented on that. And I think it's time they do it, because there are so many Saturn games that have never been ported.
Absolutely. Such a good library. I loved my time with the Saturn and the Dreamcast. And though Dreamcast got a little bit more love, the Saturn has such a, like you said, a good library of games that have just never been ported. Like Clockwork Knight is a game that I loved on the Sega Saturn, and I've never seen anything from it. Even Bug, which was albeit an average game, was still fun. I would love to replay that, but here we are.
Yeah, and I've missed so many Saturn games at the time, and now would be a good time if I could have them on the. I'm talking a lot about the Switch. Let me explain why. It's not because I'm a fanboy of the Switch. It's because the small screen helps, you know, to hide things. Like if I play a very old game, Final Fantasy, the original game, I never played it before. I played it for the first time on the screen in handheld mode because, you know, if I stretch this game on my 4K TV, it's going to look horrible.
It won't look as nice.
I don't want to do that. It's already difficult to force myself playing an old game like that. So I think the Switch is the perfect territory for those games. But,
I agree. The Switch is just perfect indie territory and old school game territory as well. Like indie sell well. Panzer Dragoon has sold well. So it would make all the sense for them to port it onto Switch too. Absolutely.
All right.
And also just as a final point on that about the Switch, it also does well in the home territory in Japan and in the West.
Right.
You know? And Panzer Dragoon still does have some recognition in its own home territory.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how well the remakes performed over there. It'd be interesting to get.
They sold the best in Japan, I believe.
Really?
Isn't that right, Oliver?
Amazing. It was in the top 20. I think it was top 13. I think on the overall during 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah. Japan was the best-selling territory, if I remember reading correctly. They definitely have the love.
Yeah, they haven't had the patch that we have had. They don't have the orange soundtrack yet, so.
Oh, that's right. They're waiting for 1.3 to put that in there. That's right.
Yeah, but they are still on 1.0, so.
That is wild. Wow, yeah.
I've seen some Japanese fans on Twitter who are not very happy about that because the game comes from Japan.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
I hope they get it soon.
They're saying soon on the Discord for Forever Entertainment. The community manager has been saying that they've passed a lot check for pretty much every other region except Japan. So they're waiting on Nintendo of Japan to finalize that lot check. And once that's done, I mean, this should be out relatively soon after. So we're looking at like maybe a week or two before that 1.3 is out.
I spoke to someone from Japan, and apparently the lockdown is not, they are not very familiar with working from home. So
right.
It's slowing down things, especially for Nintendo. So
yeah. So hopefully.
All right, and I think that was it for our, exposure to the Panzer Dragoon series for all of us. And now it's time to move to the next point, which is the VR game. So I'm sure you guys have your own opinion about that. And I don't know if you have had time to read the interview of the White Man. Did you read that? Or
I read
not.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah. I read the interview, but I don't know what to think about the VR game myself because I've never experienced VR.
I'm in the same boat.
I've
never played a VR game either. The equipment is kind of expensive, and Half-Life Alex recently came out, and I was very interested in that, but the price of entry just was too much for one game. Now, I mean, we have Panzer Dragoon. Well, for the what is it, for the Valve Index? Yes, it is $1,000 because I would say that's probably the most advanced set of VR.
Yeah.
But even then, I mean, the cheapest you're looking at is roughly $300, and that's with the game, right? So that's. I'm sorry.
It's $1,000 for the Valve Index. What?
For the Valve Index, right? And for I think it's the HTC Vive. I believe that with whatever controller they supply and the game, you're looking at least $300. So even then, that's a major difference, a big difference from $1,000, but that's still $300. So that, that's not something that I can just toss down to play one video game. Now, Panzer Dragoon VR, Wildman, this is almost like a Sonic Mania to me, right? Where it's like the community, a member of the community is making a game that they love so much. So I want to see more and I want it to succeed. I have no idea if I'll actually be able to play it.
Yeah, you know what? Out of the three persons here, I was sure you would be the one owning a VR headset because of the
We've talked about it. We wanted to get one, like me and Rudy, which is the other member of TGR. We really were considering getting one, but it was like I said, it's the price point and the fact that we would play maybe one or two games out of it right now, it just didn't make sense. Maybe in the near future we could look into investing it for the channel because there is a lot of content coming out for VR. But right now it just didn't make sense to really put our money down for that.
Okay, so it seems none of us have a VR headset. I don't have one either. And the problem is, even if I wanted to invest in one, I wouldn't know which one to get. Should I get the PSVR? Should I wait for the PSVR 2? Half-Life Alyx is not coming on those two. So
right.
Because Half-Life Alyx is probably the killer app for VR right now.
It absolutely is.
So I would like to experience this one at some point, but still, I'm not sure if I want to invest just for Half-Life Alyx.
Right.
And then there is Panzer Dragoon VR, but honestly, I'm not sure that's enough for me to buy a headset. So it's tough. I think it's nice to see someone from the community, as you said, try something with passion and getting the green light, getting the license to be able to officially make a new Panzer Dragoon game, which, okay, it's a new game, but it's going to be...
it's a remake, essentially.
Yeah, it's going to be... focusing on a few battles of the three original games because he was not sure he could make some additional games after this one. He decided to, you've probably seen that in the interview. He decided to focus on a few battles, but we don't know how many. We don't know the length of the game. Apparently, my understanding is that he's working on that alone for now. On Twitter, I think he answered. At some point, he answered to me and said, no, I'm going to recruit some people later. But okay, at this point, it's one person. Wow. And I don't know, they are talking about crowdfunding. They also say in the interview that the game is releasing this year. I mean, you are crowdfunding and releasing.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't understand the schedule. It's a bit odd.
That's interesting. I know that Wildman, as he's done another game called Gunner of Dragoon, and I watched footage of that, and that's it's more of a tech demo, right? It's not really a game per se. You can kind of play it and kind of go through a level. It's very basic. So maybe he'll just kind of paste the enemy designs and the dragon designs on Gunner of Dragoon and use that as a basis. Maybe that's how it's going to be a little bit quicker, perhaps, since it's just battles. But I mean, one person can do a lot of work. I have seen. Have you heard of? Oh God, it was during the Microsoft conference. They showed this thing. It's a game that was a first-person shooter that was made by the one person in China, right?
Yeah, I've seen that.
And that looks really impressive. Granted, it's not VR. I don't know anything about VR development to comment on that, but that was really impressive. So I guess there's hope. That's the best I could say.
There is, but at the same time, based on, I don't want to sound too negative on
right.
It's just that based on demo, on the videos I've seen, the footage I've seen from Gunner of Dragoon, I'm not excited at all. Sorry.
Right. It's very basic. All you do is aim and shoot.
And then you have waves of enemies coming at you. Okay, but it's not very dynamic. You're just turning your head and shooting. And the pistols and the face of the dragon was like a medieval, like a middle-aged dragon. It was not.
Yeah.
But obviously, it was not Panzer Dragoon. I get it. Right. But it's just that if I have to base my excitement on just this trailer from Gunner of Dragoon, it's close to zero for me.
Right.
Maybe I'm biased because I don't have a VR headset, but for me, the gimmick is not enough. And he also use a rodeo chair for the immersion, But it's not something.
That's right.
You're not going to have that from in your living room, so.
That's one of the bigger issues with VR. I think it's not only are we talking price point, but also equipment, right? You have to have the space for the Valve Index for Half-Life. I mean, you can play the game by moving around like in your body, but you have to have space for that. And you're talking about a rodeo chair. So I have to lug this thing out of wherever I'm having it, put away for the day, take it out and sit on it. And it's a lot. Granted, yes, the immersion factor might be incredible. It might feel like something like that you may never experience again. But at the same time, like how practical is that?
I could see a lot of funny accidents occurring with that rodeo chair.
Oh yeah, right. Absolutely.
I'm sure they will sell it anyway for the customer for us. It's probably going to, maybe someday they release it in the arcades. It would be the right place to do it, but arcades are almost dead,
Yeah, that'll be a Japan exclusive if it's an arcade, because Japan loves arcades. Here in the West, I mean, I don't know about where you guys live, but I can tell you, I haven't seen an arcade out of Dave and Buster's here.
There's none round here. Certainly not where I am, like in the middle of England. There are probably some in the south near London, that are just preserved there and whatever. But no, arcades are unfortunately just a dead thing over here.
Yeah. So if they were to follow that, I mean, it could work. Again, I doubt this would happen because Panzer Dragoon is so niche already. But if they were to make like a big old, arcade machine, that would work. That would make more sense. It's just, there's just no availability for it. So that's almost going to be sent to, they'll make 50 of those sets and sell them across the world and hope they do well. I don't know.
Okay, so your excitement about this game is close to. If you had to give me a number,
I mean, out of 10, I'd say 5. It's I'm not excited for it, but I'm also not. I don't think it's the worst thing to happen. What it will do is bring more eyes to Panzer Dragoon, and that's kind of the most I can expect from it.
Exactly. I think more people will get to discover this series, more VR enthusiasts who may have never played the series, so it's good. But the existing fan base, I'm not sure they are going to buy a VR headset just for that. It's tough.
It is, absolutely. This is not what I expected from a new, quote-unquote, Panzer Dragoon title. But
it's nice to see him take this risk, and he apparently cares about the series because he wants to take the financial risk on himself, and not apparently Sega is not. But at the same time, Sega is not pouring money in this project. But I mean, if it works moderately, they would still make conclusions. So I don't know if it makes a lot of difference, but we shall see. We shall see.
Indeed.
I'm talking a lot. I'll let you speak after that. I'm actually excited to see how it's remade, how it looks, but I'm not really excited to play it, if that makes sense.
No, I get that. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah.
But I wish this project a lot of luck, and I'm sure he's pouring a lot of passion. He has the endorsement of this M2 CEO, so it's not nothing.
Right.
It's not nothing. Their studio is very respected in the industry. It's probably the reason he got the green light for this project. So I'm still looking forward to seeing more about that.
Right.
And maybe if it comes on PSVR 2, I can get a headset. I would like, if I invest on a headset, I would like to invest in just one headset where most good games comes on. And Half-Life, we don't know if it's going to come on the next. There's no word if it's coming on PlayStation VR headset, I think.
Not right now. Valve definitely want to keep that under index, or at least on Steam. It may come out in the future. Maybe since the PS5 is going to come out this year, maybe when whatever VR headset comes out for the PlayStation 5, maybe then we might get more ports of stuff. But right now, it's looks like it's Steam only.
Okay, Alex, Onix, you wanted to add anything about this VR?
Not really. I can only just concur with what Onix said. I mean, we're obviously all excited to see any new developments like this for the series. And, you know, like Onix said, it draws people's attention to it. If anything, the most positive could come from it really is that it's a high quality tech advert for the Panzer Dragoon series in general. Though, you know, due to the limited access point with this, because of the cost of the technology and everything, I just find it strange, really, that they would want to do a project like this. But if it's his passion project, whatever, like I said, Saga isn't investing any money into it or anything like that. So, you know, I respect him for doing the work, and I just wish him the best with it, really. Though realistically, I don't know if I'm going to get that one.
Right. I mean, if it's like $30, maybe I'll just buy it to support the project.
Yeah,
That's about it.
Or support his Kickstarter or whatever he's doing.
Right, exactly.
Crowdfunding, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for your input on that. And so the final topic, I mean, we can discuss anything as you want, guys, but one of the topics we wanted to discuss, because Alex has things to say about it, is the art direction, which is really, you know, iconic in this series. The Panzer Dragoon series, really popular for its special art direction, especially with what the first game started with the Moebius style. It changed a little bit with the sequels, but maybe you can elaborate on that, Alex, with more expertise than myself, and Onix, you can discuss that as well.
I'll be honest here. I'm not an artist. I love the art and I appreciate it wholeheartedly. And, you know, I've done a little bit of research here and there to like the inspirations, like you mentioned earlier, Moebius. But besides that, Alex, I think you'll take this one away, because I am definitely not even close to an artist. I draw stick figures still.
Oh yeah, that's fine, no problem. I mean, there is an aesthetic continuity that goes throughout all of the games, and with slight variations with the mutations that happen in Saga and Orta. So generally, it has a common aesthetic that goes throughout. Now, just to streamline it, because obviously we could talk about what aesthetics we like in any of the games, I'd really like to concentrate the attention for what I'm going to say here on the original game, because that is, after all, the first game that started all of this. It introduced us to the world and its aesthetic, and this strange dragon design that we'd never ever seen before. And also for the benefit of new players who are listening to this, who have just come to the series through the recent remake. I think it would be really interesting for them as well to actually get some background information on what actually inspired some of these aesthetic decisions. So the main name really on the first game is a Japanese gentleman who I hope I'm pronouncing this close enough. It's Manabu Kusunoki, and he was the director of the original game, and he was also in charge of the art direction. He is the guy who actually designed the Blue Dragon. And he also designed a lot of the ship details as well. Back in the day, when they were talking about making this game, before it was even called Panzer Dragoon, before they even made the decision to make it about dragons at all, they initially talked about making more of a traditional space shooter game. Though after a bit of discussion, they thought that it would probably be better to try something a bit different with dragons. And because dragons are just a universally regarded fantasy animal, they decided to go with that instead. But they didn't want to just give this typical depiction of it, you know, like we see in Western fantasy or even in the Eastern dragon designs. And so Kusunoki, he redesigned that to make it more like He's taking influences from crustaceans and from insects in nature that have an exoskeleton. And so that's where we get this kind of armored dragon design from. So he's a really important guy to mention because he gave us that original design of Panzer Dragoon, an armored dragon. Though the other person who's really important for the series is, of course, the French artist Mobius. His real name is Jean. How would you say it, Oliver? Is it Girard or Girard?
Jean-Jacques Giraud.
Giraud, right, okay. And yeah, he's very well known in Eurocomics and fantasy illustration. Also very popular in Japan as well. And of course, people who've been longtime fans of the series will know that he did the original art for this. And I'd just like to screen share this image here. So can you see that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so here we've got the Japanese front cover on the left of Beautiful. The first Panzer Dragoon game. Yeah, absolutely gorgeous, isn't it? I mean, this is real box art, you know. It's not like the strange covers that you sometimes see in the Western. Right. I have no idea what goes through the mind of Western studios or these business people who make these decisions, because you see in so many different occasions, not just with Panzer, but with many games from around this period.
Even Kirby, I don't know if you know this, you know, it's a small little segue or whatnot, but Kirby in the West, he's always portrayed with angry eyes. But in Japan, he's always happy. Right. It's a small change, but it subtly changes the idea of, oh, Kirby's mad, he's cool or something. I don't know what they think, but you're absolutely right. It's weird changes like that.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's definitely different aesthetic sensibilities between Japan and the West generally. Mm-hmm. Though the fact that they got a European illustrator to come in and do this does bridge those two worlds quite nicely, I think. And Mobius has such a unique style. He's really a master of perspective. If you look on the image on the right here, where you've got the Imperial ships coming down, mm-hmm. a lot of Mobius's art is similar to this, where you've got these big perspective shots. He doesn't do a lot of things in portrait a lot of the time. They're usually coming in at an angle or looking top down over this big landscape. And we've got all these wonderful details. He's a great colorist as well, with Mobius's stuff. And there's also something that he made. It was a comic, actually, his own one, called Arzak. And Arzak's very unique in the world of comics because there's no words in it. It tells a story completely through images. And what Arzak's about is this young guy who rides on the back of this kind of plump pterodactyl-like creature. And he goes flying over all of these different fantasy continents, and they find these incredible encounters with giants and just seas of surreal, strange creatures and all kinds of stuff. And that's what the comic of Arzak is. It's just this massive flight simulation, so to speak, but told through pictures. And with him making that comic and also being involved with the first game, I find it very difficult to believe that Arzak didn't have any influence whatsoever in the conception of Panzer Dragoon. There must have been something that bridged those two things, but I've never heard any direct confirmation of that, either from Futatsugi or from Mobius himself. And there's definitely a kind of correlation that's going on between those two worlds there. And the other thing that I wanted to mention as well, aesthetically, about the first game, is that something that links it to our world is that with the architectural styles, they actually took a lot of their reference from a Turkish architecture. So you can see here on the image on the left, this is the Hagia Sophia, or the Blue Mosque, as it's sometimes called in modern day Turkey. And this used to belong to the Byzantine Empire, which was Christian. And then when the Ottomans took that place over, they commandeered that building and they erected these big spires that you can see that are reaching up there. And on the first level of Panzer Dragoon, you see these very similar domed structures that are inspired by that kind of architectural styling. Mm-hmm. And you also see as well the spires, don't you? It's sticking up out of the water.
Right.
I think it's much more noticeable on the remake than it is on the original because of the fidelity. But you can definitely see that something is there nonetheless. So yeah, that's really what I wanted to say about the first game. I'll just drop that image down now and go back into it. So yeah, that's just a bit of background information that I wanted to put out there about the first game. I mean, what do you think about the stylings of the original game itself? I mean, obviously it unfolded and became, shall we say, more sophisticated as time went on. But what do you two actually think about the aesthetic direction of the first game? Do you like it?
Who wants to
take it away, Oliver?
Yeah, I like it. The thing is, I only experienced the first game much later, so I don't have the same affect with this game. But I can definitely see what they started to build with this first game, and it's as you said, we can see it got inspiration from different animes or comics, or Arzak probably part of that.
Have you heard of Arzak before, Oliver?
Yeah. I've seen.
Yeah.
Because when you Google Panzer Dragoon, you can see a lot of Moebius comparison, and there are some websites that
and France is like the mecca for comics in Europe, isn't it? So
yes.
Yeah. I remember because my mum used to live in the south of France, and every time we went down there was always something comic related going on in the towns or something. Yeah, it's really good.
And just to come back on those two pictures that you show initially, the Japanese front cover and the other official Moebius artwork for Panzer Dragoon, I believe they were the development team, Andromeda team. Several members at least were a fan of Moebius work. So, as you said, I've never seen any official confirmation that they took inspiration from Arzak, but they confirmed that Moebius, obviously, they really appreciated his work. And I think they asked Saga to commission Moebius, and they were just surprised to get the approval. Apparently, they were surprised in the end because they were not sure they would get the green light for that. So,
why did they think they wouldn't get that? Is it because he's a Western illustrator?
It was a bit expensive, and they described themselves as a bunch of punk at the time, I think. So you can see it's not your typical Final Fantasy game. It's more, the inspiration is a little bit taking from different artists. There is the Nausicaa.
Right. Valley of the Wind, yeah.
There is that is quoted as a reference, as an inspiration, and there are others as well. So
there's also a really beautiful anime from the 1980s called Dragon's Heaven, and you can actually get the full version of it on YouTube. And just imagine an anime. It's very short. It's only about 24 minutes long, but the whole styling of it is drawn in Moebius style. It's almost as if he made it himself. It's a Japanese one. So if people really love the Moebius aesthetic, definitely check out Dragon's Heaven. It's just so beautiful. And I think it came out in like 1986 as well, which is crazy.
Okay. If you want to send me a message with the name, I can probably
Sure.
put the link below the video when I put it online.
Sure,
No.
I will do that.
And
Is that Dragon's Heaven or Dragon's Haven?
Dragon's Heaven.
Okay.
so we have a new guest joining us, Virtual Neptune. So what happened to you, buddy?
I'm so sorry that I'm late. I completely forgot today was Mother's Day, and yeah, my wife.
Yeah, it's Mother's Day in the States.
It is Mother's Day in the States, yes.
Yeah.
But as for introductions, thank you for having me. My name is Virtua Neptune, also known as the Neptune Mage. I am a writer for the Well-Read Mage and the Saturn Junkyard, and I have loved the Sega Saturn for many ages. And my very first game was Panzer Dragoon Voyage. So I love this game. You were talking about the aesthetics of the artwork with the game. Absolutely beautiful, rustic, gothic, just absolutely. That's one thing that I really loved as a child, was going through those amazing worlds through snow and all of those very, very strange villains that you encountered. Like you were talking about the aesthetic with the buildings and whatnot. And yes, a lot of that was very, very beautiful to me. But one thing I do want to point out about the first Panzer Dragoon was the worm that you encountered. I absolutely hated that worm. It killed me so many times, but either way, still. And, but it reminded me a lot of Dune.
Of course.
Played that game. And, well, not game, but read the book. You know what I mean? But absolutely, and God, it was all just so fantasy and absolutely beautiful. But man, one thing I will say about the first Panzer Dragoon, the one thing that everyone has commented on and no one has ever liked, was the fact that there was no save feature. That is one thing. Like, you had to play the whole game in one go. Now, nowadays, it's not so much a problem because you can instantly save on emulators and whatnot. But, those of us with actual Saturn consoles, you gotta set aside a good amount of time to actually play it. But Zavai, it kind of transcended the first game a lot because of the leveling system. Every time, well, not every time, but a lot of the times whenever you beat a level, your Panzer Dragoon grew. And it would, shed the skin and become bigger. And with that comes more power. And you really get that sense of growth throughout the game. And that's what I've always loved about Zwei. And then they took it a step further, many steps further, actually, with Panzer Dragoon Saga. Man. But I will say this, I still have never played Orta.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I know. I don't have an Xbox One, so I can't get it on that new feature, and I've never had an Xbox. It always just came out on another system. I've always had a Sega Saturn, then I had a Sega Dreamcast, so that was always kind of a moot point with me. I still want to play Orta. I'm just not entirely sure how at this point.
Yeah, luckily, that's probably the most easily accessible of the originals, besides, of course, the remake now. Just right. Because, Zwei and Saga are nowhere to be found unless you want to spend $600 on a copy on eBay.
I found it at a gaming expo in Phoenix, Arizona. I also found a lot of really good games over there, like Dreamcast and Saturn games. I was in piggy heaven. It was amazing. But I found Zavai for, I believe it was just the disc, but it was only $25, and I transcended space and time. $25? I transcended space and time to grab that disc as fast as I possibly could.
That's ridiculous.
Oh dear Lord, it is still in my collection to this day.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Lucky.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good story. $25. That's wow.
Yeah.
If only.
I know, right? I mean, you'll never find that with Saga. Saga is ridiculously expensive. That is one thing I really want to change is the price that people are asking for these games. It is ridiculous. You need to take out a loan or something for some of these games. Oh God, Burning Rangers, all of those. But yeah, Saga was the big one. So I had to do a reproduction. I hated doing the reproduction, but I have a reproduction, you know.
Yeah.
The experience is more important than the material item, though, isn't it? So
correct.
Yeah.
Even if you buy it secondhand, I mean, you're not giving the money to the original developers anyway. So
yeah, pretty much.
Do a repro than doing it to, you know, some eBay resellers. I think people need to experience this game no matter what. I mean, if they can emulate it, if they can do a repro, they should do it. And the day Sega re-release it, we need to support them. But
exactly. Yes. Exactly. Now, I've heard some bad stipulations about this new remake. I have not actually gotten it, but I've heard it is... I don't know. I heard it's kind of a shell of its former self. I have not gotten a chance to play it quite yet, but I've played hours and hours of the original Panzer Dragoon, and I looked at it, and then my friend Brian, the Virtua Schlub, he says he made a review on the Saturn Junkyard about the remake, and he didn't pan it completely. He said that there was good things about it, but you're more or less better off just playing the original. What do you guys think?
Go ahead.
Well, here I'll say something quickly, and I'll plug my video too. I made a video for my channel, the Gaming Résumé, kind of dissecting a lot of the stuff that has been discussed already for the remake. But my personal opinion with the remake is that it's the best that it could be, looking at all the things surrounding the remake itself, because Forever Entertainment did not have access to the original source code. They kind of built this from scratch, and all the feel of an arcadey shooter like Panzer Dragoon that was very prominent in the 90s, that really, it still exists, but it's much more niche. I mean, Panzer Dragoon has always been niche, but it's even more so now. So for them to recreate all of that essentially from scratch, maybe from memories, if any of the developers are actually fans of the series and maybe they grew up playing it, maybe looking at YouTube, maybe, I mean, who knows how they got it, right? But This is the best that they could do from that standpoint. Now, is it a replacement to the first one? Absolutely not. It does have, how do I say this? It does have things that it doesn't do as refined. The shooting feels a little off. The lock-on feels a little off. There is major input lag if you want to go into like a really technical descriptor, right? All those things, while minute alone, aren't, they are a big deal when they're all put together. And that's why the remake suffers. Now, the developers have said that with the upcoming patch, which should be out in the next week or two possibly, they are addressing a ton of complaints from the community. They're addressing the 60 FPS. They're going to have a 60 FPS option. They have said that the input lag should be reduced. I mean, Oliver, you've talked to them, right? You made a post about that.
I interviewed the producer, so it was in French. I had to translate some of that. We got the info first, and it was nice from them. But they are confirmed. I mean, that's what they say. We need to get our hands on that.
Right.
But I mean, if they promise something and they don't deliver, it's not going.
That's a different thing, right? But as for now, my overall thoughts is that it's a good product that hopefully will be better. I still think we should play it, and at the very least support the company that made it, because that will show Sega there is interest in possibly more titles down the line. But I to say that you should just play the original, I mean, I don't think that's even that's doing it a disservice, just because we can't even play the original legally. Yeah, I mean, you can kind of think of emulation isn't necessarily illegal, but it's not. You're not giving any money to the developer. Sega isn't making any money off of that, of doing that, or even playing an old Sega Saturn. So how do you even play Panzer Dragoon 1 without owning Orta and an Xbox One?
Right. Yeah, but that brings up another subject that I would actually like to touch on, and that is the whole culture of just patching games after they come out.
Can I just say something before we get to that topic, if you don't mind?
Go ahead, by all means.
Just finishing on this topic on the remake, I fully agree with the Onix. It's far from perfect. I've said that on Twitter. People said I was, a fanboy or something. I was defending the game too much. No, guys, I've complained. I have put a list of things that they need to address. I've been more in the constructive criticism rather than just purely critique and not helping them. So I've done that. But what I can say, even with all those problems with the game, I still had fun. So at the end of the day, what's the bottom line? It's to have fun with the game. So I personally had fun. I don't know about you, Onix. It's not perfect, but I had fun.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. You could see. I did a live stream of my first playthrough of the remake, just because a lot of people that found me on YouTube was because of my reaction to Panzer Dragoon, and even people that had no history with it just wanted to see how I felt playing it because of that reaction. So yeah, I absolutely had fun. I freaked out a lot of times because I thought, wow, I can't believe that I'm seeing what I imagined when I was 10 years old. It's a big deal. So it was a lot of fun. Absolutely.
The one thing that hurts me a bit is to see the reception for Street of Rage 4 and compare it to the reception for, it hurts a bit because I think it could have been a bit better for Panzer Dragoon Remake, but it's not as bad as some people make it out to be. That's my point.
I think Panzer Dragoon Remake has the issue of possibly being pushed out too soon. I think that game could have benefited a lot for maybe an extra 3 or 4 months of development time. One, we would have had the rearranged soundtrack on there from the get-go. They may have been able to introduce more of the, what they call the shadow menu, right? More of those replayable options, because Streets of Rage, I mean, they're so different, right? Streets of Rage is a beat 'em up, and that kind of game has so much more feedback in the sense of, in that basic fun aspect, right? You can play that over and over just like you can with Panzer, but they're so vastly different. Adding co-op as well, you can have, it's a very different ballpark. So I can see that game is like easier to give higher scores than Panzer Dragoon, if that makes any sense.
Oh, I see what you mean. But I was just talking, not comparing the games, but just, the reception and the fact that bringing back a series that was dead. They bring it back from the dead in a way.
I would definitely get that. I feel like Panzer Dragoon Remake should, of course, had more of a positive reception, because for a mega fan such as myself, such as us, all of us here talking about this, most of us didn't destroy it and say, no, this is a bad game, right? We mostly said, this is a good game that needs some refinement. So yeah, I don't know. I don't understand what happened with the critics on that aspect.
Well, to be honest, on Twitter, it was not always a peaceful place for me. Most of the people were friendly and were, enjoying the game, and that's fine. You can criticize the game. It's okay, but just don't be so rude. So I don't know. It's
don't take what Twitter says seriously, Oliver.
That's a vocal minority, man.
People will be as disrespectful as possible just to get attention. That is the big thing on Twitter, is how loud can you be and how many bad words can you say about something, especially popular things.
Exactly.
If you have an unpopular opinion and you say it loud enough people will come and view your Twitter, and that's what they want. And guess what? No, that is just wrong.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's more about really showing your passion about something, not about how loud can you be and how much can you growl.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Well, but it's why we'll benefit from those lessons, I hope, and we'll release in hopefully better state, and have the 60 frames per second from the get-go, and all those improvements. Fingers crossed.
I think this will be a learning experience for Forever Entertainment as well. So when they do actually come to the Zwei remake, when that releases, it should be, or hopefully it will be,
right,
a much more concrete product than the original.
Hopefully that game.
Yeah.
Again, Panzer Dragoon is iconic in that it's the first, right? A lot of things that we have already discussed make it that iconic game. But Zwei improved so much on that core formula that, for the lack of a better term, it deserves that love and attention. Like I've said before, for any other remakes, really.
Oh,
I think it'll get it as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much why it became my favorite of the series, is because not only did it improve on the original formula, but like the graphics improved and the gameplay itself, you could finally save where each level started, and you didn't have to start all over if you wanted to turn off your Saturn for a little while. And then Panzer Dragoon Saga came, changed up the gameplay so drastically, so amazingly well, but it wasn't the same. That rail shooter where you have the big, huge laser coming out of a little tiny gun, and then just the satisfaction of targeting all of those monsters and all of those flying beings and just unloading a whole bunch of tracer lasers. It just became magical to me. Now, Saga in itself was amazing, because the role-playing aspects and the adventure, the feel of just controlling the Dragoon, that is one thing it does hold above it. It's not, I don't like calling it a rail shooter. I really don't. But technically that is the closest term you can come to it, is a rail shooter.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean.
Talking about Panzer Dragoon, right?
Yeah.
Panzer Dragoon, it really is, because you are on rails and you're shooting at stuff. So I think besides that, maybe flight simulator. You want to simulate a dragon?
Yeah, that would pretty much mean that you actually control the flight. So yeah, I guess rail. Sure, rail shooter, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's still an experience all its own, and a lot of people can complain about the graphics nowadays, and obviously they're going to, because it's not the. It's not the
25 years old,
Yeah, give it a break.
Yeah,
but I mean, I'm really glad that they are bringing it back in a remake. And if they remade Zwei, I really hope that they don't have to do another patch. I really hope that they learn from their mistakes this time around. That's one thing about gaming culture. Like I said, I don't agree with it. I really don't. Just releasing a game and then saying, "Oh, let's go back and fix it." It's like it wastes time. It
kind of does. I mean, I agree that that company should 100% try to push out the best product possible. Like Miyamoto has famously said, I'm going to quote it perfectly, but he said, a delayed game is eventually good. A forced, a rushed game is forever bad. Though now we do have the ability to patch. It's a double-edged sword, because now developers can sometimes be, and I put this in big quotations, lazy, and push out an unfinished product and then just say, I'll just patch it, in a few months, et cetera, et cetera. In the case of Panzer Dragoon, like I've said before, I feel like this may have been rushed. It's possible that, they may have ran into some sort of hiccups in the original development. It was announced originally in 2018, and then it was revealed in 2019 in June. So it came out, I forget, was it March of this year, right? March 2020?
I think so. It was either late March or early April.
Something like that, yeah. So we're looking at not even a year and a half of possible development time. So maybe it was rushed. Maybe Sega was just like, guys, you got to get this out. Or maybe it was due to Nintendo wanting to possibly shadow drop that announcement on the Direct where it was announced. So there's a lot of factors that could have played into them having to patch it. So, but I do agree that, companies should not rely on patches. However, there is the pro of them actually actively listening to the community, because you couldn't do that back in the day. Once Panzer Dragoon was printed on the disc, that's it, baby. You're stuck with that, glitches and all.
Right.
There is a good to it. Yeah.
Definitely. Yes, absolutely. And then back then you had to read the magazine for all the reviews. And then it's like, okay, now write to us in a letter and then we'll get to it eventually.
Right.
And wait until the next magazine comes out and then we'll reply to you. I know. Like technology, like you said, is a double-edged sword. And it's great that we have that kind of communication nowadays. But then there's that other thing. It's like, oh, well, how can we please you? We need to do this. We need to fix everything. We need to make sure that these people are happy. And that might not make these people happy, but we want to make these people happy. It's like, you need to make yourself happy first.
Right.
Then worry like the big nitpicks, the huge ones. Now, some people will get obsessive compulsive with these nitpicks and they will want to fix literally everything. And that is not correct. A game should be beautiful, flaws and all. But, but if it breaks the game, yeah, definitely fix it. But if it's like one little yappy head complaining about one thing, you know what? It's a wash. It should go to the creator. But nowadays, apparently that's just not part of the culture. I don't know.
Yeah, especially with remakes where it's, you have a basis where to build from. It's definitely a little bit harder to please everyone. You're absolutely right on that. I mean, if you look at the Discord community for Forever Entertainment, one of the users there made a spreadsheet so other users can come in and throw in either their criticisms or what they believe are things they could fix. One user even going as far as recording tons of glitches and errors that he found and, putting them on there. So that kind of stuff, I got to say, that kind of stuff helps the developers because sometimes they do miss these things on their own. Yeah. What that speaks about their Q&A testing process, I don't know, because that's what that process is there for in the first place.
Exactly.
But, it is what it is. At the end of the day, we are unfortunately living in a world where corporations run things. And if a corporation says, yo guys, we got to release it by March 10th, guess what? Like they just got to do it. Not everybody is Nintendo, unfortunately.
Yeah, no kidding. Nintendo can keep it in the oven for as long.
Exactly.
To add something to the discussion here, it's not exactly, it's a little bit off topic based on what you were just discussing now. Mm-hmm. But about the remakes, I think there is a difference between a remake that is done in-house by the studio that has created the series and a studio that is an external studio that doesn't necessarily have the legitimacy to reimagine a game. So it's a bit tricky. Mm-hmm. I think for an external studio to remake a game like Panzer Dragoon, because it has a big aura, it is very respected by the retro gamers. It's quite popular, and then I'm not trying to find them excuses. They still need to fix the game, but I think it's different if Sega had to reimagine the game, or if an external studio has to do it. You know what I mean? It's like even when they developed Half-Life Alyx, I think even the developers in Valve. Even them, when creating Half-Life Alyx, they were stressed because of the legacy of the series. And
of course.
So you can imagine if they are stressed in their own studios, what it can. I mean, you see my
yeah. Didn't Forever Entertainment also say before the first remake came out that Zwei and how that game is developed relies on the sales of the first one? Like they knew that it, I think from the reports they had an idea of that it was a success even before they finished. But I remember reading early interviews saying like this game has to do well in order for the sequel to do better, if I remember correctly.
I've seen that, but I asked the question when I interviewed Benjamin, and he said it was not true. So I don't know which area I have to go.
Oh,
interesting.
Wow.
Okay.
Benjamin said that the two games were signed and would come no matter what. So that's what he said.
I hope that the sequel just gets a bigger budget, hopefully from the sales of this first game, so they can realize what they may want to do from the get-go.
Yeah, because they took a risk for the first game, but now they know that, okay, they need to make sure they don't take a huge risk for the sequel, but they maybe could risk a little bit more.
Right.
You see what I mean? Because
absolutely,
they have a better Metacritic, they are going to sell more, so maybe invest a little bit more, polish the game a bit more.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, I know. I really, really hope that Zwei at least gets more time in the oven, and and now, like I said, they've learned from their mistakes. They know what the people want. They don't want like those delayed controls and all of that stuff. And you got to make sure that you get the main points correct, and then you make it pretty.
Right.
You make it, and then like I loved the graphics originally, but that's coming from a guy who just came off of 16 bits.
Right.
I was just a 10-year-old kid whenever I got my Sega Saturn, and all I know was 8 bits, 16 bits, and it's like, whoa.
No, I think
32.
everybody was like that. Yeah, because
exactly.
A lot of people will argue the biggest jump in graphics was from the 16-bit era to the 32-bit, because you have 3D polygons now. You have Mario running in a 3D space. Like, that was huge, not only from a graphical standpoint, but from a gameplay perspective.
Well, yeah, but that was 64 bits.
Yeah. Or I'm sorry, that's what I meant.
64, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot Mario came later.
Yeah, a little bit.
But what I mean is, like the jump from 2D to 3D, that right. jump was massive. Massive.
And a lot of people will, like today, a lot of people will complain about the Saturn and the PlayStation for their graphics. And it's like, well, what do you expect? I mean, come on.
That was 25 years ago.
Exactly. And those people back then poured their heart and soul into those games. And they were, instead of given money, they were given creativity and freedom to express themselves. And nowadays, you just see very few of that outside of indie games. It's really a shame, honestly.
Yeah.
And like Alex said, it was a lot of corporations. They run the show. You got to please those corporations, or you're not getting out the door, mister.
Right.
And it's really a shame.
Even the first Panzer Dragoon release in '95, wasn't that a little rush too? They had to meet the deadline of the Sega Saturn launch, from what I remember. So they had a little bit of a rushing to do as well. Yeah,
they kind of did that a little early, so it was a little bad for all of the developers.
I mean, Sega was just wild. They like phantom released that. They were like, "Hey guys, shadow drop of a console, $100 more expensive than the competition, but here it is."
Oops.
Like, Sega, man.
And then they didn't get into Walmart, and then all this other stuff. Sega kind of shot themselves in the foot, and I didn't like that at all.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that as a kid. All I knew was here was the Sega Saturn system. Oh, it comes with 3 games. Oh, I'm so happy.
Use Dragon. Cool.
Yeah. No, like I forgot why we got Panzer Dragoon 2, but my brother, I guess, liked the cover art or something like that. But it was me that clocked in all the hours on it because I loved it. Oh my God, I played it for hours and it was amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
There's the Sega 16th anniversary soon, so I'm not hoping too much, but hopefully they have a few surprises for us.
That'd be nice.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So Virtual Neptune, thank you for joining. You've pretty much catch up on almost of the topics we discussed, except for one, which is the VR game. Have you heard of that?
I heard whispers of a VR game, yes. I have not actually gotten into the whole VR culture yet, but I'm all for it. Like, back in the 90s, VR was the thing that everyone wanted, but unfortunately, the expense was so massive and the machines were gigantic. Bringing VR into a home console was a pipe dream back in those days. But now that we're actually getting into that, it's still a little expensive for my taste, unfortunately. I've got a PS4, and I can get a PSVR, but it's probably going to be a while. Now, Panzer Dragoon VR. Oh, yes, please give me that all in my face right now, please. But I cannot rush things right this second. And honestly, I think, dreaming about that sort of thing makes it even sweeter. And the day that I put that headset on and start riding my Dragoon, I think it'll be very well worth it. Absolutely.
So that makes one of us.
Oh, come on. Really?
No. We had a discussion earlier, and we're all kind of on the fence, not necessarily because of the game, more so, like you said, right? It's the investment, the environment, the VR environment. It's a little bit of a it's a hard entry point to get into it. So it might be cool. It might actually be a good game. It might not, but we're all kind of lukewarm at best, I think.
Oh, really? Wow. Really? I'm talking to three. I'm sorry, what? I'm talking to three gigantic Panzer Dragoon fans, and none of you even are excited about getting your own Dragoon that you can fly on.
I am excited to see this game, running, but as I said before, I'm not excited to actually play it. That's just my taste, because I'm a little bit on the fence about VR, because I don't know, this gimmick. I'm not sure this is for me. I wanna see the game. I want to see more footage of this game. It's exciting. I think for us to see that more Panzer Dragoon games are happening. It's another entry point for new players maybe to the series, but I'm not sure for the existing fan base at the moment. Many of us are going to VR headsets are not very. There are not so many here in every home. I mean, if you compare that to consoles or PC gaming PCs, I don't know what the ratio of VR headset owner is, but it's not very high, I think, at the moment. It's still a big investment to play a couple of games, I think.
Okay, now that I get. But I'm talking about the very idea of playing that game and existing in that world through the VR. That's the part I'm excited about. Now, getting the VR and then getting those 4 or 5 games that are still good on it. Absolutely. I'm all for that. It's not worth it just to get a $10 Ghostbuster game and look around the fire station. It's like, ooh and ah. But no, I mean, it does have Resident Evil 7. We've got that going for us. And then it has, Skyrim has a VR game now. That's there. That's a big enough game. If they made it that big, honestly, I don't know.
And that's the other thing too. Like Panzer Dragoon, from what we know, is that it's not gonna be the full game. It's gonna be certain battles. So it may not even be like a full chapter. It might be like, oh, here's a cool battle with this enemy. Here's another cool battle with this enemy from the second game. Here's another one from Orta. Here's Saga. It's not going to be a full-on 7-episode or 10-episode VR game. It's just going to be like highlights in VR.
Okay, well, in that case, the price better match the product.
There's a lot of factors to it. The other thing is that it's only one man developing the game. It's not a whole studio.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, it's Wildman. He's a big fan of the series. And he made a game called The Gunner of Dragoon, which is, kind of a tech demo. And you can see it on YouTube, so you can kind of get an idea of what it might look like for Panzer Dragoon.
I don't know if I can share my screen.
You can try pulling it up if you can.
Maybe I can share the. Let me share my screen quickly.
Yeah, give it a shot.
Okay, so one guy is developing this. Yeah, he better be a mega fan.
He's a mega fan. He was, if I remember correctly, he was one of the ones in during TGS that had big complaints of the playable demo back then in September of last year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, so that's the interview. It's been translated. I will provide the links below the video when I put it online. Silicon Era has translated the interview, but basically it's this man, wild man, and his name is I don't have it here, but it's wild man, and this man is M2 CEO. So he's been endorsed by this man, and he's been introduced to Sega. That's how we got the the green light to get the full license for the game. And
Right.
this is the demo, the actual footage of the game, and that's why I said before that I'm not too excited for it. Take a look.
Right. Yeah, you can kind of see it here. It's not very impressive. There it is.
Wow.
So yeah, you have some waves of enemies. I mean,
Look at him on that seat.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a cool aspect, right? We discussed that the rodeo chair, which will this could be an extremely immersive title, and it isn't a welcome addition to Panzer Dragoon, but all of the aspects going into it. I mean, you gotta make space to have that chair in your room, right? On top of the space for you to be able to move around and aim at all the enemies coming up and things like that. So, will it be cool, and will it bring more attention to the series? Absolutely. For that, I am 100% like excited for. But I just don't think that, like, seeing this gameplay, I'm not like, yeah, I'm gonna drop $300 to get into this.
Yeah, probably not.
And no disrespect to Wildman, right? Like, this is, it's one guy. You can't, it's hard to develop games, but let's be realistic here. I love the series, but even if it wasn't one guy, even if it was a AAA experience, like, it's got to do a lot for me to drop the money and also make the space in my room to get all that equipment in there.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And I'm not
That's
sure
pretty
how
hard.
I feel about that's very nice art.
those are some new images from the VR game. We have not seen that before, and apparently it's one person who is creating actual models in real world, and they are scanning that to reintegrate them in the VR game. I don't know how this works, but that's how I understand it.
That's interesting. Yeah.
It's a
It's like a
partnership
goldfish.
between a fan of the series who has done those models in real life, and then someone scanned them. So yeah, this is shell proof. Obviously, you recognize that, and this is the dragon from Panzer Dragoon Saga.
That is
Wow,
awesome, yeah.
that is really nice. I mean, the first one, like I said, looks like a goldfish, but I mean, hey, I can fight goldfish. It's fine.
Yeah.
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 So that's it. That's all I wanted to share.
I gotcha. No, okay. Yeah, in the context of that, I've heard whispers of it. I've never seen any of the footage or anything like that.
Can you hear me?
And yeah, I can hear you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. I don't hear you.
You don't hear me?
Hello, guys.
Oh, can you hear us?
I don't hear anyone now.
You may have changed the setting.
Uh-oh. Yeah, you might want to check
Anybody
your settings
speaking?
there. Yeah, Alex, say something.
I can hear all of you. No.
Yeah.
Yes, you are speaking. Why? I don't have the sound now. What's going on?
I'm writing him to see if he can see the settings. Sometimes the settings get all weird.
Yeah, this is why I don't play around with this sort of stuff. Like, this sort of thing happens to me all the time.
That happened to me when I came in. I actually had to change my settings. I had to click the little arrow by the mute button
It's okay.
and change my speaker.
Sorry,
You got it?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Perfect.
All right, excellent.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Okay, but no, so yeah, the idea sounds great. And I kind of wish that they would have stuck with closer to the original graphics. I mean, yes, the new graphics are nice and they're shiny and all that good stuff, but obviously that's coming from a classic Dragoon player, and that's just a little nitpick from me. What I don't like, that floating gun.
Wait a minute. You mean this footage here?
Yeah, that footage right there.
This is not Panzer Dragoon VR. This is the Gunner of Dragoon, which was his previous game, and that's what he used to pitch it to Sega. So we can't really judge how Panzer Dragoon VR is going to look, but that's just based on that, I said I'm not too excited, but it remains to be seen how the actual game will look.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, in that context, yeah, I'll just wait and see what goes on. I try not to get hyped for games anymore. There are just too many disappointments to be had with that. And honestly, I was a little skeptical whenever they announced the remake of Panzer Dragoon, and the same thing with, Katamari. I love Katamari, but Katamari Reroll was just, didn't really like Reroll all that much. Mm-hmm. So, I'll play it by ear. That's just how I go with that. Getting hyped for a game nowadays just isn't worth it. There's just too much stuff that can go wrong now, especially with corporations running the show. That's just my view on that whole thing. Right. But the idea of a VR Panzer Dragoon, absolutely. I love the idea. Sounds great.
I think the floating gun is a common thing in VR games. Even in Half-Life, I think you have a floating gun. I think when you have the headset on, it's not too shocking. It's when you watch it.
Yeah,
that's what it sounds like, or looks like, I should say. But watching a video of VR is a lot different than playing it. That's true. But yeah.
So we shall see about.
We'll see.
I don't know, guys, if you have any other topics you wanted to discuss, because it's already been 2 hours now that we speak.
Yeah, but no, thank you guys for the opportunity, and thank you for this is literally my first podcast to be in, honestly. Very first. You guys made it very inviting and very, very nice. You guys were very respectful, and I do thank you for the opportunity very much.
Yeah, well, you certainly made up for the lost time.
Yeah, it's funny. You covered everything we talked about in 20 minutes.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, man.
I guess that's just how I roll. Who knows?
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
No, but thank you guys again. Also, Olivia, thanks so much for the invite. I do appreciate it. It was awesome being here. I love Panzer Dragoon and anything gaming related, so you guys can always invite me. I'll be down to participate for sure.
Absolutely. Same with me. Invite me again if you would like. I am all ears.
Well, I certainly want to continue this. The first podcast gave me the idea that it was a good concept, so I want to continue with that and invite some more guests. Hopefully, I can have more and more guests going forward, and maybe you guys can come back as well. So maybe I need to think a little bit about some specific topics going forward, because it was our first 2 podcasts, so we didn't have many things we had already covered, but maybe going forward, I need to think about what subjects exactly we are going to discuss.
One idea, just to put it out there, which is obvious, seems obvious anyway, is that you could do a segment on each game, right? So you could get, say, people for whose Vi is their favorite game, right? And get, say, 2 or 3 of those people in the same room and get them to talk about it. Then do the same with Saga. I'm sure you'd have a lot to say about that as well, because it's your favorite. Do the same with Orta. And that's just an easy way forward, I think, just to go through it sequentially.
Good point. Yeah, we could do a few episodes like that. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, if you need a Zavai fan, you got one right here.
So
there you go.
Absolutely.
Okay. And what about you? You said Orta, Alex.
Yeah, Orta is my favorite. Yeah.
And Onix as well, I think.
I'm gonna say Orta too. It's the one I've played the most. The one that I have the most vivid memories of. So I would say Orta as well.
Did you unlock Pandora's box completely?
Oh man, I played that game for like 50, 60 hours when I was younger. Yeah. So I absolutely did.
Probably.
Absolutely. It was so good. Yeah, I wish that the remake would incorporate it. I know that with the new patch, they're saying it's going to be a little bit easier to unlock their shadow menu, or what was called Pandora's box. But
right, yeah.
So we'll see.
Okay.
Hopefully, Zwei has a much bigger arsenal, because I would love to see all the concept art that Orta had, all those videos. It's just a plethora of information, right? So I really hope we get that too.
Right. Yeah. No. And believe me, if you want to, like I said, if you want to survive, I've got you covered on that. I've clocked in so many hours. It took me a long time to actually beat it because I was so young and wasn't all that great at games. But at the same time, it just became muscle memory. Nowadays, if I play it, I really can get lost in that game. So absolutely.
Okay. Good. It's good to know, and we'll consider you as our next guest for an upcoming episode. No problem. So it was really nice having you, the three of you, in this episode. So thank you for taking the time to record this. And if you have any links, any social link that you want to share, feel free to talk about.
I just sent you, while you guys were chatting, I just sent you the link, Oliver, to that Dragon's Heaven anime with the Mobius aesthetics.
Okay.
Nice. So yeah, you can just drop that down. Yeah, anyone who likes Mobius, just watch that thing because it's beautiful, and it's only 24 minutes long, so it's not going to take up a lot of your time either.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, thank you guys for having me, and thank you for the time, and I hope to see you all guys again.
Yes, gentlemen. Yeah, see you later.
Indeed. Thank you so much
for your time. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.